name's David Barton. I'm a senior researcher at the Norwegian Institute for Nature Research, NINA. And my background is working in environmental economics, ecological economics. So the demonstration project is about looking at tools for nature risk screening of projects, investment opportunities in the finance sector, but from the perspective of how do you screen out projects with high nature risk, and even more specifically looking at screening tools that use biodiversity metrics and looking at how these different metrics and tools cover the diversity of biodiversity, habitat, different kinds of nature types where you get projects, and to see whether the data that these commercially available tools, whether they are able to eliminate or screen out nature risk locally, because many of these tools use global data sets and usually the resolution will be quite low because they try to have a common basis for comparison. And so we're basically trying to look at the extent to which these commercial tools can do a real job of screening out nature risk projects and not just a greenwashing job. I think connecting the demonstration project we're working on with SELINA, I would say that the data used for these screening tools, the biodiversity metrics, they're of course being used by the private sector and finance. That they should be using the same data sets as public ecosystem accounting, and the seed of change would be that the private sector and the public sector end up using the same data set, having the same understanding of the world and its extent and condition of ecosystems and their ecosystem services. And if that's possible, that's a huge change. It sounds trivial, but it's a very big thing, which would make everything much more transparent. And maybe another seed of change would be that wouldn't happen by itself. To get the private sector to see that they have an interest in as complete possible biodiversity data sets for their own good, and that they co-finance data collection on biodiversity that's also available for public applications, so that there becomes like a joint collaboration in facilitating data that they can use to screen out bad projects with high nature risk, but that also is useful public accounting data. And I think that's a huge dream. It's maybe an illusion. I don't know, but that would be definitely totally transformative. I think that ecosystem service science is initially, it seems societally relevant in a way that you would expect it to be used by everyone that cares about nature, because ecosystems are working for us through their services. But I think that the ecosystem service science, and I don't just think it, it's been shown in a number of reviews, that it is it's not very good at documenting why or how it should be used. So what we call a documented uptake in the scientific literature is extremely low, and so there's some kind of a barrier. And so more broadly within SELINA, we're trying to identify how to do ecosystem service assessments in a way that are applied, useful, and that will not guaranteed to be taken up and used by stakeholders, but that will be more likely to be used by stakeholders, because we as researchers don't have control over what actually gets used from science, but we can increase the likelihood that it's relevant. And I think that's one of the big missions of SELINA. The objective of the project is to connect nature risk screening tools using biodiversity metrics to the best available data in whatever location the project that's being financed by the finance sector, in whatever location it is, to use the best available data, which means that it needs to be a flexible tool that is adapted to local national data sets, because there's a huge variability in the availability in information we have about biodiversity and ecosystem services around the world, and the finance sector is global. so that it's not only in the EU, for example, the portfolios that are being evaluated in any country. But from our perspective as European countries, right now we're in Norway, by the way, in this interview. That's why I have this hat on. The data in Europe is probably much better than in most places in the world, and we're very lucky in Norway to have high quality data. But these screening tools that are used to screen out high nature risk projects, they're using much lower quality and much more generalized data. And so how do we connect the data we have in Norway to these commercial applications so that yeah, we're always using the best available data. Yeah, and of course that would avoid the finance sector supporting projects that shouldn't be funded. We've chosen to focus on the biodiversity metrics, and by that I mean biophysical metrics of biological diversity, yeah, basically it's using that information, species information, information about where you have habitat types and especially threatened habitat types, threatened species, and to use that information in these screening tools. The specific benefit is getting a good understanding of how good these tools are in relation to the project site-specific needs, and then demonstrating how we can connect local data to improve the screening capacity so that these tools aren't just greenwashing tools. It's connecting publicly available biodiversity data in a flexible way to commercial tools that are used in the private sector. Yeah, so it's I mean, at a fundamental level, it's getting public available data of the best quality for use by the private sector, but in doing so, setting up a system where the public sector also has a motivation to co-fund and improve ecosystem accounting data for public use. Because I think that, I mean, we all know that public resources for doing ecosystem accounting are never enough. The private sector is huge, the finance sector is huge, and I think there's a kind of an equity issue that they should co-fund the generation of data that's for their own benefit, but also for public benefit. And I think that in our small, tiny demonstration project, we can't solve that issue, but we would be contributing to that narrative that this is important.